I'll be honest here. I'm just a little bit bored of Wizard 101. So, this is a video I've been wanting to make for quite some time, and honestly, I was contemplating if I ever even want to make it and just talk about, just how I feel overall about just making like Wiz content. And I decided, yeah, we'll definitely do it because I just feel like you guys deserve an answer as to, just really, for the most part, the lack of the PvP content. That's the big one. But even just like the low amount of consistency in terms of content in general. Because when I first started, making videos like of Wiz and many other things that I did, I kept it like a really nice balance of the variety. So you saw a little bit of Wiz content, and then you saw a little bit of the variety content. And honestly, that was really fun. I really enjoyed my time, keeping the balance of both the variety and the Wiz content together. One day, I essentially was deciding to stream Persona 5 on Twitch, and apparently, I had a little bit of issues with my laptop. I guess I used like a wrong connection for the charger, and the fact that it kept going in and out the whole time. I wanted to keep it charged, and I couldn't find my charger for the laptop. And ever since then, there was just some issues with like USB ports and all that stuff, and it just didn't really allow me to stream any sort of like games I'm on Elgato during the time. And that's when I just stopped doing the variety content altogether. And with that, while I still wanted to make content, I decided, hey, let's do a little bit more Wiz content since, that's what people tend to watch me for anyway. And, maybe keep a little bit of a balance with Pirate as well, because Pirate was another thing that was going on with the channel. And, maybe I should be fine. Maybe I'll still keep growing and, I'll have a good time. And one of those things was definitely true. It did still seem to be that I was growing just a little bit, way too slow, in terms of like, what it was in the past. But it did seem like I was still growing, which is a good thing. However, the thing that didn't really become the case was me having fun making the content. And don't get me wrong, there were still lots of videos that I really enjoyed making. Like the Stitch review videos are always fun. The pack review videos are always fun to make in terms of the meme content, like those meme intros. And that was fun. But then it just started getting to the point where it's like, yeah, the channel's not doing too well. And, really, at the end of the day, most people, if not, majority, really only just watch me for PvP, or at least that's what I think for the most part, since whenever I was doing PvP content, in a very consistent manner, it was doing all right. Like, it was doing pretty decent. And I felt really good. I felt like I was doing really well. And then suddenly I just kind of stopped doing PvP altogether. And part of that reason was mainly because, the implementation of the Dragoon's gear. And within that new dungeon, before then, it was fine for you to go without the Dragoon's gear and still do PvP. But it got to the point where a majority of people got the Dragoon's gear, mostly because of a glitch for the most part, or also because people just grinded the living hell out of it and they were already ready for PvP. I unfortunately fell very behind when it came towards, the Dragoon's gear, and most of the time that I was doing playing Wiz, other than just like, the typical, check my garden, check the pet kiosk, see if there was any pets that I need to put back in the kiosk, and maybe train the pet a little bit and then just leave. Some of the times I was just farming Dragoon's gear, and it's a very tough grind for sure. And I just kind of, maybe because of that grind, it made me a little bit disinterested in PvP, because I knew that even if I did have the gear, I will still be behind in terms of how to play with certain strategies in the meta. And another issue I tend to have, which I did talk about in stream, was the backseat gaming that definitely happens in any game, by the way. This is not just exclusive to Wiz, but when I stream or when I make videos, I just find it really annoying that people always try to tell me how to play, and you should play like this and that, just because they watch like a specific PvP streamer do it, or like just a PvP content creator do it. And it just gets really annoying. Like, I just want to have fun, and I do tend to check the comments really, like, very frequently. Like, I want to make sure that I keep a really good interaction with the audience. And I know there are some that just genuinely want to help me, but then I know there are some that they're just there, just to annoy me and, be basically elitist in my opinion. And it gets really annoying. And I guess, all that was just kind of making me not really want to do much PvP content during the time. And I was trying to essentially come back to doing PvP content. In fact, I was doing some PvP with my Myth Wizard off camera, and I was feeling like I was getting there, and then there was moments where I didn't really feel like I was getting there, and I was still struggling against like so many things, and maybe still trying to learn within the new meta. And it also doesn't help that with all these recent changes, there's still like lots of problems with the game. Like, for example, I feel like Maycast aura pets are a little bit dumb. They essentially just allow for people to risk having pretty bad stance but still keep their offense, and the pets essentially can make up for the stats that you tend to lose. And not to mention the new crit system. While I think it's a great system in terms on paper, for some reason on practice it just doesn't really seem to work well. And part of that reason is because for some reason the developers didn't really consider about like the importance of block, as to like how often can block even happen in the PvP sense. And personally, I feel like if block was a little bit more relevant, and in practice the new crit system doesn't necessarily favor people who just go like glass cannon with like high health, high damage, and have a decent amount of crit and can still go over people's block that tends to be like over 500 or 600. Because I feel like if you tend to go with stats that are fairly defensive on the block settings, you're generally not rewarded for it at all. In fact, you're in a disadvantage, because by then you just don't have the damage in order to output the other person who tends to have a little bit more of an offensive oriented stance. And I just found it like really annoying. I didn't really know exactly what's going to work, what's not going to work. And the fact that it's like everything is a grind in this game, and don't get me wrong, like that's the whole point of an MMO, but the lack of just trying to make things a little bit easier and a little bit, what if there's a right word to say it, I will probably say a little bit more bearable through the grind, then yeah, I wouldn't really mind it so much. But as of right now, I only have like, for the most part, like just like 4 characters who, for the most part, in terms of stats, are ready. One character who is finally getting towards the point of being ready, and then I have my 2 other characters who still need the quest towards the max level. And that's after like so much time after the Catacombs has been released, and it just goes to show as to how much of a grind these things are. And it does get a little bit of annoying that even after all this grind, you still won't necessarily do well in PvP. And even then, it's just like the fact that yeah, RNG is still kind of a thing. Some of the mechanics in this game is still pretty bad, and just kind of wishing that things will get better. And as for me, in terms of like the Wiz content, because I've been rambling a lot about PvP, because that's like a really big thing for me. A lot of people really started watching me because of PvP, specifically Myth PvP. Since during the times it was considered like the underdog school, and I was pretty decent at it at the time, and it was fun. But at the same time, I also wanted to do variety content, because I didn't really want to be just considered only a Wiztuber and Wiztuber only. And for what you can see, the channel's not really doing that well either. And a majority part of it is definitely because of the consistency. I feel like I could be a lot more consistent when it comes towards videos in general, but it's really hard for me to just think about like, oh, let me just make like a video that's not Wiz whatsoever, especially like not Wiz PvP, knowing the fact that even after I upload this video with a bunch of hours dedicated to making the video, it will only get like at most maybe like 80 views or so, and only like a handful of people just watching it. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not necessarily doing this like for the views or anything, like it's like something to where I just like to create what I want to create. But I do like to see feedback on a lot of videos that I tend to make. And unfortunately, as of recent, the channel's not doing as hot, and it does kind of like get to the point where maybe I am a little bit too focused on the numbers, because YouTube makes it so easy when you focus a lot on the numbers. And one of the main things is I wanted to get to like around 1,000 subs by the end of last year, and unfortunately that didn't happen. And it was just like a mix of me just going like getting towards the point and then go down and then I go up and then I go down. It's like a whole roller coaster ride in terms of the sub count and just trying to get to 1,000. And I always just try to see us like, why is it that I just can't seem to grow that well within like Wiz, and what makes other content creators I tend to see who just started out do extremely well all of a sudden, and I'm still here stuck trying to figure out as to what do I need to do in order to grow the channel. What do I need to do in order to just do what I want and not having to worry about just losing people, and just like making sure that my efforts into making videos is actually worth my time, and just making sure that I keep a nice balance between YouTube, work, and school. And these are just a lot of things that were in my mind. And I know I've been talking for a long time. I'm pretty sure a majority of you won't even watch till the end. But I just kind of wanted to put that out there. This is really how I feel in terms of just making content for this game, because the thing is, there's really not much you can make for this game overall. Basically, it's either going to be like you do a walkthrough series. You either, for my case, I tend to do Beastman now and then, and even then, I kind of stopped making Beastman videos in general, because it just doesn't really do too well. You can do PvP, but there's just not much creativity you can do in terms of PvP. I mean, yeah, you can definitely do what one of my most favorite Wiztubers does, Mega Mikey. He just does like some crazy strats for no reason, and that seems to be like a very fun video to make, and it just seems like something that I will love to do now and then for sure, because those seem to be a little bit more of my style instead of doing the completely only competitive scene of Wiz. Because honestly, at the end of the day, this game is only like an RNG game. You can't really make it so competitive as many people would like to make it out to be. And speaking of like competitiveness in this game, in terms of just like the walkthrough kind of aspect of it, I honestly don't really like Wiz PvE that much either. And it's only because like I feel like the combat system, it gets to the point where it's just going to be extremely formulaic, and it's just not as interesting for you, and doesn't necessarily give you a chance to try out new things unless it's from the competitive scene. And even then, in the competitive scene of PvP, like in PvP for example for Wiz, it's pretty limited at times as to what you can do as strategies. Most of the time, as you can see from so many people who tend to watch PvP videos or do PvP, it's usually like almost the same strategy now and then. And credit to those who actually try to, come up with new strategies for PvP, because those are really entertaining to watch, and I really love to see it. But most of the time, it's just as formulaic as the PvE system, and that's also part of the reason why I just tend to prefer Pirate for PvE, because while yes, it is pretty formulaic, the schools do feel different for sure, and they have different play styles, different ways to combo different moves, and there's just so much depth into the PvE combat system in Pirate compared to Wiz. And for me, I just kind of found Wiz PvE very boring. I found it more like a chore, and that's essentially like how I saw most of the stuff that happens in this game. Like, it just feels like a chore. But I still enjoy it now and then. Like, I enjoy playing, Wiz with my friends. I have friends on the Discord server. You definitely know who I'm talking about here if you watch some of my streams. But with those friends that I have, even we tend to talk about, how tired we tend to be a little bit on Wiz, and sometimes we like to do some other things, and sometimes we like to take a break and just do some other things, not just play Wiz all day. And it gets to the point where I don't know exactly what's going to be happening. I don't really know exactly what's going to happen with the channel. But what I do know is that Wiz content still is going to come. But as of right now, I'm still kind of in my hiatus stage for the Wiz content, because I just want to get that creativity back again for Wiz content, and just like have the urge to, yeah, like I want to make Wiz videos again. And, I still keep the variety going, but I just want to make more Wiz videos again. I know this has been like a really long rant. I've been going from like topic to topic. This is like off script. I'm just basically talking about, how I feel. And you know, for those who are wondering, yes, I will be coming back to Wiz sometime in the future. Right now, I'm still kind of in the hiatus stage for, you know, the Wiz content, but it will be coming back. I definitely do promise you that. But as of right now, just expect more variety content during the time, and hopefully you guys understand um, that this is just like what I want to do, and I just want to enjoy myself and not be forced to, you know, stick with one type of content every single time. So that's about it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and as always, remember to stay frenzy. Peace.